Welcome back. You're watching a special edition of Global Lens from Washington, D.C. During Prime Minister Modi's visit to the White House, both nations have signed the Compact Agreement. Compact stands for Catalyzing Opportunities for Military Partnership and Accelerated Commerce and Trade. Recently, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri was here in Washington, D.C. to speed up and increase and elevate cooperation under the Compact Agreement, also look at more opportunities for co-production and co-development of defense items, and also look at the long-term cooperation under platforms such as the Quad and also the I2U2. Where is the bilateral agenda between India and United States really progressing? I caught up with Richard Rossow, Senior Fellow at Center for Strategic and International Studies here in DC. With us is Richard Rossow, someone who understands the India-US relationship very well and tracks the Indian subcontinent. Rick, let me begin by asking you, between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, India and US had signed the Compact Agreement. Is that really getting anywhere right now?
It's got to kind of restart a little bit. You know, I think under the Biden administration, there was an understanding. Part of India, the engagement they want with the United States on technology is helping American companies make investments in India. And imagine that. I mean, on the backs of the IRA bill on domestic manufacturing of things related to decarbonization, on the CHIPS Act, we supported companies in those industries to also invest in India. Trump administration, I suspect, supporting outbound investment is not likely to be quite as high on the agenda. So they got to find, I think, a new level set in terms of what compact or the new trust is going to look like. And that's going to take some time.
Right. Do you even see more U.S. investments into manufacturing happening till the time this administration is in power?
There may be some. You know, I think the decision is, you're looking at the war against the world on tariffs right now, and a lot of companies, whether you're buying stuff from overseas or selling overseas, you got to wait for a little bit of time to settle to see what the actual administration is going to focus on and look like across its 4 years. And right now, every day we wake up with new announcements. But the companies that might think about India right now are ones that realize across multiple administrations on every stripe, pressuring companies to stop investing so much in China has been a prime directive of multiple U.S. administrations. If they're drawn down from China, but they're not ready to come back home, maybe India is that place. I think a few other countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Mexico, Vietnam were kind of first to the punch. But India represents a size of a market that those other countries can't compete with.
Right. Recently, the Indian government modified rules, came up with an execution model for the fifth generation fighter aircraft development. We would be inviting private sector development. Even foreign players can participate in that. Do you think this would be of some interest to U.S. companies who have been pitching F-35s to India?
It'll be of some interest. You know, I think you saw Lockheed Martin years ago put on the table shifting global supply and manufacture of the F-16 to India if India were to agree to buy it. That didn't take place, come to fruition. It depends on how big of an opportunity it is for the American companies. We've had a number of areas where the government's tried to intervene to force private companies on both sides to sign contracts to do joint production, joint research, and none of those have come to fruition. So it's hard for the governments to kind of force and arrange a marriage of private sector companies unless there's a commercial intent behind it. And every American company that would consider doing any kind of development needs to know the dollars and cents. They're not going to do it for global development. They're not going to do it for India's health. They want to do it for commercial reasons.
Right. What I would also like to ask you, after Operation Sindoor, India is now on an acquisition spree. This is mainly one to replenish your weapon stocks, which are used up in Operation Sindoor, and also fill up capability gaps for the future. Do you think that was the crux of Vikram Misri's visit here to discuss co-production, co-development opportunities in the defense sector?
It's always going to be a high on India's agenda. So I'm sure that was a critical point of discussion. Again, how far the U.S. administration under President Trump is willing to go, probably not as far as prior U.S. administrations have been willing to do. But at the end of the day, we do understand the warfare India just conducted and actually was with Pakistan is probably the way warfare is going to continue in the future. So that rethink about what India needs is probably changing, evolving a little bit, and U.S. tech partnerships can certainly be there to help.
You know, China is reportedly supplying fifth-generation fighters to Pakistan. This is not good news for the region and for India. Does U.S. as an ally think about supporting India with its fifth-generation program? Do you feel that there could be movement between India-US defense relations as a result of what China is trying to do?
It could be. I mean, the Trump administration has already put on the table the idea of sharing the F-35. Whether or not, I mean, it's an expensive proposition. Countries that have become part of this, they want to be part of the supply chain, not just simply to buy. And, we've already got production with a number of partners there. So, finding the nuance and mechanics for that might be a little bit difficult. Again, supporting India with its own development of a fifth-generation fighter aircraft is probably an extremely long-term proposition, and it's going to be up to what kind of commercial opportunities they can put on the table for American companies. But the F-35, it's on the table. The question is, can we move that any further than what you saw just with the high-level announcement at a White House visit?
Right. Are you seeing a possibility of a deal concluding on the F-414 engines, which are so critical for India's fighter jet program?
Yeah, I think that one's far enough along where I don't think the Trump administration would have an interest in pulling it off the table. Multiple rounds here. This is not the first time that we've announced the intention for GE specifically to share jet engine technology with India. They haven't been able to come to commercial arrangements, but seems to be moving as fast as it can, knowing the real limitations you've got here. But they're going to have probably a little bit less push and pressure from the White House to get an agreement done. It's going to be left more up to the commercial negotiations to see it happen.
And that's why the price negotiations are moving slowly.
Yeah. It's always going to be about that because India wants as much tech as they can possibly bring on board. GE wants as good a commercial opportunity as they can, and commercial negotiations of something of this magnitude never going to be easy.
Right. Any carve-out for India as a result of the immigration policy, the visa crackdowns by the U.S. administration? We've seen a visa pause. It is yet to take effect, is what we learned, because appointments at the U.S. Embassy are still taking place. But do you think there will be a carve-out for India from this strong immigration and visa policy?
Well, at the end of the day, what they're announcing right now is not necessarily going to dramatically change how the system operates. The only country that's been targeted very specifically is China, where they're concerned about, Chinese coming, learning high-tech issues at U.S. universities, going back and bringing that back home. India, I don't think, is going to be part of that, but they do want to make sure that you've already seen a crackdown on illegals. There's a lot of Indians that overstay their visas here, and you've seen plane loads of folks going back, and I think they're handling it with a bit more tact and nuance than when that initially began to happen there. The United States wants foreign students to come in. U.S. universities want foreign students to come in. And I think so far you've also seen the Trump administration say that they want to hold the line and make sure that high-skilled immigration. Trump has a lot of supporters that believe high-skilled immigration is very important. India is critical for that. But you're going to see less interest in the United States as a place to study, as a place to work, because we feel less welcoming.
Right. My final question would be cooperation under Quad, I2U2. Do you think all of this is under risk right now? Because Trump's priorities clearly are only around trade. And who's putting in more money in the U.S.?
Security also is very prominent in Trump's agenda. I mean, so far, it's been mostly trying to pull ourselves out of conflicts in Europe by seeing if we can accelerate negotiation on Russia-Ukraine, Middle East, although we have had limited success there. But Indo-Pacific security, I mean, President Trump prioritized that quite a bit last time in office. He's saying the right things. You see the Quad Foreign Leaders was the first foreign policy summit the Trump administration held. So I think Quad will be there very strong. I2U2, it was always a bit more about the commercial opportunities that could be unlocked. So there, I think trade, I wouldn't be surprised if that evolves into trade. But Quad, I think, will still have a security underpinning. But, from talking to folks in the Trump administration, too many initiatives, not enough money, not enough time and attention. I think they're going to skinny the agenda a little bit and try to get some things done.
All right. Thanks very much, Rick, for joining us, telling us all about the India-US bilateral agenda and what we can expect in the days to come.
Yeah, cheers.